Let's spend a minute on the NPR CEO, which has led to there's a civil war going on inside of NR right now on who this crazy lunatic Katherine Maher really is. Thanks to Chris Rufo, we have a lifetime worth of absurd, woke tweets, woker than woke. She gives Kendi a run for his money. She's from Connecticut, like my kids are going to have to say they are, although they were raised in New York for 10 years. She is, her mother's a state senator. She's guilty about it all. She can't really stand the fact that she's a white woman from Connecticut. And here's just a little bit of the latest that's been surfaced about her. This is from, May of 2021, a virtual conference with the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University. And listen to her in 2021.
I started by talking about the idea of free and open as some of our founding principles. Well, I have come to the opinion and the perspective that free and open was a way of looking at the world that was inherently limited relative to what we were trying to achieve. Free and open has the best of intentionality, but in the end, what free and open often ended up doing, and particularly in the case of Wikipedia, was really recapitulating many of the same power structures and dynamics that exist offline prior to the advent of the internet. Others, the ways in which I'd ascribe notability often really comes from sort of this white male westernized construct around who matters in societies and who is elevated and whose voices. And so some of these ideas of sort of this radical openness really did not end up with the intention, really did not end up living into the intentionality of what openness can be.
Oh my God. All right. Before I get Charles to weigh in on this, because I know he's been fighting with our friend Jeff. Jim, just the way she speaks, right? It's like, it's just the same way all of these academics we see testify on Capitol Hill speak. It's the way these so-called academics like Kendi, I mentioned, speak, Robin DiAngelo. They take 20 words to say something that required one. And they do it in every phrase of every sentence. You have to work so hard just to understand what they're saying.
I kind of listen to that and think, if listening to Vice President Kamala Harris has become too complicated and sophisticated for you, then you're ready for Ms. Maher. This is the nice natural step beyond that to it's buzzword, woke phrasing, buzzword, woke phrasing, and there's a rhythm to it. And you begin to, and this is, the other thing, I know Charlie and Jeff have been going at it hammer and tong, but I read about this today, and I think what's somewhat it's depressing but almost refreshing is we've seen these kinds of journalistic scandal stories before. Dan Rather, Jason Blair, maybe a little more recently, the freak out over the Tom Cotton op-ed at the New York Times. And very often you'll see the institution after the revelations come out. We really didn't do this the way we should. We've let everybody down. We did not live up to our principles of reporting the news honestly and objectively, and we pledged to do better. We've seen this a million times, and nothing ever changes. They never actually get any better. But there's with this one, NPR, pretty much from everything that Berliner said in the op-ed at the Free Press is kind of like, we don't think any of that's legitimate. We think we're doing a perfect job. There's nothing that we could be doing better, and we love ourselves just the way we are. And there's something kind of refreshing about that. They're not playing along with this idea of, oh no, we're bad, we must have done something better. They are proud, they're biased. NPR is the way it wants to be, and I doubt it will ever significantly change.
It is like a we're here, we're queer, get used to it kind of moment for them, like suck it. The problem for us is we pay their salaries, so we're not really willing to recoil in surrender to them. Charles, explain the debate that you're having with Jeff is it Blahar? Is that how you pronounce his last name at National Review, about just what exactly we're seeing in this woman, what she actually is or isn't?
So Jeff thinks that she's performing, that she's worked out the best way to navigate the spaces in which she lives, and that way is to echo all of this guff. And I think she's, a freak. I think that she means it. If you look through her tweets, and Chris Rufo has been highlighting some of the best ones, you find no difference at all between the missive she puts out when she's trying to argue something in the political world and the missives that she puts out when she's just scrolling through the channels at home on TV. This is who she is. I think she is a cloistered zealot. I think at some point, I don't know when, maybe she was brought up like this, maybe she picked it up at university, but I think at some point she has absorbed, swallowed whole, this preposterous progressive ideology with its frameworks and hierarchies and intentionalities. And she's unable to live in the world without processing quite literally everything she sees through its terms. And there's one tweet where she is angered by the racial and sexual makeup of an airport lounge that she's in, and then by the people sitting in the first class section, which she goes to great pains to say she only saw because she had to walk through it, which may have been true in that particular instance, but she's hardly downtrodden. That to me is the behavior of an ideological fanatic, of somebody who lacks empathy. And she uses this word empathy all the time on her Twitter feed, and I'm sure she thinks of herself as empathetic because she thinks she has all the right opinions. But actually, empathy doesn't mean that at all. What empathy means is that you are aware of what other people think and feel and believe, and that you think that it has value, or at least you're prepared to spend some time understanding those people. The best way to become empathetic and the best way to understand yourself, in my opinion, is to have friends who roast you, who make fun of you, who laugh at you constantly, who make it clear to you, affectionately, sure, what you are in the world, how you come across, what your flaws are, what you're good at. That is the best way to understand what it is that you project in the world. And just reading through, and I accept I don't know this person, but just reading through, she seems to both completely lack empathy about the country she lives in and people who think differently than she does, and also seems to have absolutely no sense of humor, and no one in her life who can say to her, you know, Katherine, what you've just said is crazy. You sound like a lunatic, and you maybe need to dial it down a bit.
You said something on NR about how she's one of the least self-aware people you've ever encountered. And I mean, I need to raise, especially because we mentioned you originally hail from Great Britain, Meghan Markle. Hello. I'm sorry, but she is number one. This woman may be a close two, but there's nobody who's more unaware of how they come across than that one, except perhaps her husband, who's now we're stuck with, Charlie. Like you're a trendsetter. You came over here and you decided to stay, which was a win. But then he followed you, and now we're stuck with him because he's officially declared America as his residence. And to that we say no.
I would slightly challenge the causality you're implying there, that that he in some way came over because I was here.
How did we get stuck with that?
I don't think
it's
my fault, Megyn. There's no chain migration between me and the royal family, thankfully.
I'll let you slide. One more from this lunatic, Katherine Maher, and NPR funding, SOT 18. Take a listen.
That most written knowledge today has been written by white, colonial, European, North American men. And so one of the things that we're really focused on is how do we think about correcting the record? And so one of the first things we do is we measure the gaps. Who is missing on Wikipedia? Women are missing. People of color are missing. People from the global South are missing. Indigenous communities are missing. The history of Black Americans is missing. It's also about going directly to these communities and saying, what do we need to change about ourselves? You know, what about the experience of editing Wikipedia? What about the culture of Wikipedia? What about the policies of Wikipedia need to change?
Oh my God, Jim. Like, it's a problem just because history and so many white guys.
Yeah. Well, if Wikipedia really does lack contributions from women and coverage and discussion of women, minorities, apparently, as she just said there, all of African-American history is missing from Wikipedia. I would blame the person who's been running Wikipedia for the last few years, which I believe is Maher herself. You know, this is all kind of almost rote. I guess I come down as an agnostic between the Charlie Jeff division here. I don't even sure it really matters much. At some point, it may be a matter of if, as Jeff suggests, she, was echoing what she felt was most needed to rise in the corporate ladder and in the woke workplace to be the appropriate choice, even for being a white woman from Connecticut. You stare into the abyss long enough, it starts to stare back. If she's playing a role, she may have lost herself in the role. I think this is who she is. But yeah, I think this is exactly the person NPR wants running it. The NPR is the way they are. They haven't gone out of business. They get taxpayer money to cover things when things don't come in. They don't get enough sponsorships.
Okay, but on that front, we have another minute. Should NPR funding be pulled? Because no one's discussing that. I think like Ted Cruz said it.
Oh.
Nobody in Congress is really doing anything about it.
Well, most folks on the right have been saying for decades it should not be funded by the U.S. government. So yeah, absolutely it should be pulled.
As we approach another critical election, many Americans are concerned. Recent studies reveal that an astonishing 56% of citizens report feelings of anxiety or dread about the upcoming election. But I want to tell you about AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. AMAC is more than just a senior organization. During these challenging times, they fight for common sense and for the U.S. to return to traditional American values. Visit amac.us/Megyn today to get an exclusive election year special, a 4-year AMAC membership for just $30. As an AMAC member, you not only enjoy money-saving benefits, but also the AMAC magazine, free Social Security and Medicare advice, a trusted voice in Washington, and a community of like-minded patriots. Take advantage of this election year special, 4 years for $30, and be part of the solution. Join now at amac.us/Megyn. That's amac.us/MEGYN. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.